All right, so I recently finished up a league, and it ended up being 3-2. Game four, there was and I don't think there was any way I could have won game four or match four. Sorry, match four was just the mulligans were trash. The opening hands were garbage. It was. I'll show you in a second. I'm just going to play through these as fast as I can, kind of show you how it went, and some new threats that are existing on the horizon, but also show you how efficient Cheerios is currently running. So let's do match one here. All right. So game one went pretty straightforward. I'll step through some opening plays here. I made a pretty big mistake. I assumed too much, I think, here. Of course, this is, an automatic keep. Not only you've got, of course, you've got a way to cast Glimpse of Nature, a Noxious Survival to get Glimpse of Nature back when you hit a next land source. 3 Cheerios. This is a perfect setup. Rite of Harmony, in an opening hand like this, you realize Rite of Harmony is not going to play a big role in this particular attempt at comboing off, but this is still definitely a keep. So let's run through this here. All right, so they're on the play. Misty Rainforest. Already, you're like, okay, there's blue in the game, and the problem with fetches is you can't really tell much about any other colors that might be there. But if it's a blue fetch, chances are you're going to be hitting some blue source. I'm going to turn my speaker down a second. It's so loud. And then an island falls. All right. At this point, I don't know what they're playing, but them choosing a basic island, and then here I think they do a ponder here. Yes, they go for a ponder first. I don't know what you guys' experience is. If I see ponder on opening hand, on opening play, I'm thinking immediately, for some reason, my brain triggers to sneak and show, or the standard show and tell, omni show, something like that. I'm thinking of a show and tell deck. That's when you start seeing ponders and brainstorms being thrown out all the time, in my experience anyway. So my mistake was he goes through this, passes turn, gets to me. I go for it, of course, assuming I'm going to play into a Force of Will. Draw fourth Cheerio. Obviously, if nobody stops Glimpse here, you pretty much have won this game. So exile Spirit Guide, cast Glimpse, then on with the Cheerios. Okay, next Cheerio, and Land Grant. Okay, so Kobolds are going to fall, use Land Grant to get a Savannah. Noxious Survival back to Glimpse, draw it with the Kobolds, and then you're on to the double draw then. All right, Revival back to Glimpse, play the Kobolds, or Ornithopter, whatever. Then draw the Glimpse, cast the Glimpse. You're on double draw with 2 Cheerios. You should win from there. I'm just going to hit play. This game played out exactly how you thought it would. So what bothered me here was, or the mistake that I made here was I assumed too much off that island in the ponder. I assumed this was show and tell, and that I had, I needed to bring in control magic, or I'm assuming that I'm going to be playing against control magic. So of course I'm thinking, while I'm going through this storm, I'm thinking about Xantid Swarm. And, the hardest part about Xantid Swarm is if you get a real good opening hand that's like a storm, a great opening hand to go off with, but no Xantid Swarm, do you keep it or do you mold with Xantid Swarm? And, so you can imagine what I was thinking here at that point. All right, play game 2. This is when I find out what's really going on with this deck. So he definitely had me tricked here. All right, got an opening hand with Xantid Swarm. I'm not happy that it's set up like this with no follow-up really to Xantid Swarm, but silver lining here is that Noxus Revival can double essentially as a mana source. That's your difference here between you got cards like Land Grant and Elvish Spirit Guide. Noxus Revival and versus Elvish Spirit Guide, Noxus Revival can get the Lotus Petal back. So you know, if it's not a land, which is what you would prefer, you'd want this to be a land in this setup because you want to be able to have that mana available later to cast part of Rite of Harmony, favorite part of it. But I kept it because the Ancient Swarm's there. An extra bonus here is if you're playing control Magic, getting that Memnite out early, you start chipping away at their life total. It means a lot. So I've won with Memnites before, you know, and when I used to play Pestermite in the sideboard, I won with that. So he mulled to 5, as you see here. He mulled down to 5, which already had me confused. Counter decks really don't mull that much. Underground Sea. Now I'm really confused, and I'm thinking about Doomsday, things like that. So he comes out with a Ponder. Again, confusing me on what's going on. And then he passes turn. I go out with the Xanthid Swarm. Now, drawing the Spirit Guide here was very lucky. So now I can play the Spirit Guide out, the Lotus Petal, put the Xanthid Swarm out, or not play the Spirit Guide out, but use the Spirit Guide to cast Xanthid Swarm, put the Lotus Petal out, and then at that point I'm like, okay, I've got their control magic countered, you know. So I should have played the Midnight out. I should have went ahead and put that out. But I didn't that turn. I should have. But it didn't matter in the end anyway. I'll show you. So, now, realize this is going to be a difficult game because discards, to me, are a little bit harder to play against than control magic. For some reason, I've just had more trouble playing against discard. But I'm just going to hit play now because nothing comes out right. I realize that I've sideboarded wrong. And the next turn here, you'll see, I realize what happens. Excuse me. I've got a little bit of a cold here. All right, Volcanic Island. I'm completely thrown off. Infernal Tutor. And I realize this when it gets to his third turn, it's over at that point. So I've got the Savannah. At this point, if you hadn't made me discard it, I would have been playing Rite of Harmony. Now, I see the Lotus Petals start dropping, and I know exactly what's going on. So then you realize, you know, you've or I have anyway, I've sided wrong, and I'm playing against a Tendrils deck, and he just goes off this turn. There it is. Okay, I remember I was trying. I clicked concede, but it made him do several things there before the concede actually showed up. All right, so now we know what we're playing against. I don't know if you guys have watched the other videos. Against Tendrils decks, we should be kicking ass because we're just a faster Storm. The Storm for Cheerios is more consistent and it's faster. So should be able to outrun any Tendrils match that you're playing. And that's certainly what happened in Game 3. I realized who I was playing against. And Game 3, I was able to read the situation a little better. Opening hand against Tendrils. This is gorgeous. You know, you come into a glimpse or a Rite of Harmony is going to end up, even though that you don't have the mana sources to play it, Rite of Harmony is going to even get you there. Noxus Survival gets you there. This is great. You know you're going to win, especially playing against Tendrils. You've got this. You should know at this point you're going to win this Game 3. Okay, there's the land grant. So you can go ahead. At this point, this is why you want land grant versus fetches. You can cast 2 land grants in a turn and pull those other lands. And since we only have 3 main board lands, or at least I do, playing this land grant really helps, because you really don't want to be hitting those other lands when you're storming down. In this case, mana thinning becomes, brick eliminating during a storm. That's kind of what I refer to the non-Cheerio cards you hit during storming out. It's just kind of bricks which hit along the way. All right, there's a spirit guide. At this point, it's getting sketchy. I'm feeling a little down on the situation here. Shield Sphere. I'm hoping for a Rite of Flame, and there it is. Okay, now, yet again, Rite of Flame is going to display its dominance here compared to Beck. It being an instant, this guy has already had his trigger off of Glimpse. I've gotten his draw, but now I can exile the Spirit Guide, crack the Lotus Petal, and play Rite of Harmony, and then get another draw when this thing falls. So I get an extra card here, and then the extra card's a Cheerio, which is perfect. I've got 4 draws now instead of just 2. That's the difference that one Rite of Flame made, is I'm drawing 4 cards instead of 2. And of course, from here on out, now I've got six draws, so I'll just hit play there and let that one play out. So you should, any game against Tendrils, you should win. I mean, there shouldn't be much to worry about there. Because, like I said, Cheerios is just the faster storm. It's faster, it's more consistent, and it just hits on turn 1 at a rate that they can't really handle. So if you're counting so far, we're at 2-1 on turn 1 wins here, on winning on our first turn. All right, so that's match 1. Let's go on to match 2 here. All right. And this, again, this is beautiful. Obviously you want to keep this. 4 Cheerios and a Glimpse. And Scapegoat, which means you hit a Lotus Petal, or a green source and a Wild Cantor or something like that. You can get to that white mana. This is a gorgeous way to start. Hopefully one of these Cheerios gets you to a Lotus Petal, in other words. All right. All right, there's a Noxious Revival. No need for it yet. We're going to wait until we get another mana source. Okay, there's Rite of Harmony. Not doing us much good right now. We don't have 1 mana source. There's a Lotus Petal. Now, I think at this point, I think I went ahead and played, I can't remember what I did here. Yeah, went ahead and played the other Cheerio. Get out as many Cheerios as you can, and unless you're playing somebody that you think might counter the Scapegoat, you just want to keep going until you have to Scapegoat. All right, crack that Scapegoat. Put all those back in your hand, and then right back at it. I'm just going to hit play and let this one play through now. So, oh, sorry, I missed a step there. I Noxious back to Glimpse. And then there's a Lotus Petal. Yeah. I shouldn't let that play through so fast. Anyway, there was a Lotus Petal in there where I Noxious back to Glimpse. All right. And there it is. Went ahead and stormed out. Okay. Opening hand, we know absolutely nothing about what they're playing. No changes in the sideboard. Move on to game 2. Excuse me. All right. And this is, again, this is a good opening hand. It's a lot of mana sources here. Like, love the Scapegoat sitting there. Only 1 Cheerio. And you know you're on the draw, so this looks good at face value here. And they mulligan to 5 cards. Okay, now here's... Okay. Now, when this thing falls, you realize, okay, you can only play either Glimpse or Rite of Harmony once that turn. And, excuse me, you can't play a Rite of Flame, or not Rite of Flame, Grape Shot at the end of it. So, as soon as this card falls, you realize your game plan now is to get Goblin Bushwhacker. But you're going to have to get Goblin Bushwhacker off of a single Glimpse or a single Rite of Harmony. This card was difficult to see. I did not like seeing this card. And it's another reason we're going to talk about, after I show you these matches, one of the cards that I think we're going to end up having to look at in the future. If these cards start to come out more and more. So I went ahead and opted to play the land grant there. So essentially what we're going to have to do there, if you know, at this, you're going to wait it out. You probably lost. This is a hard card to play against. But what you're going to plan on doing here is getting the mana sources sitting out there. So get 2 Savannas, a Lotus Petal, and a red source. And you need one more red source out there before you even try to storm down to Goblin Bushwhacker. I'm just going to hit play for a second. Let me go through some turns here. He does Elvish Reclaimer, Korean Ranger. Alright. I play out the other Savannah and Lotus Petal, pass turn. Alright. Alright. Now. I had to pause it there. I skipped through this turn way too quickly. I wasn't thinking about what I was doing here. What I should have done was go ahead and play the Glimpse off the Savannah. Then play the Cantor. And then, you know, get a draw off the Cantor, play the Ornithopter, Shield Sphere, storm as far as I can, and try to go ahead and hit that Goblin Bushwhacker. You'll see in a minute it didn't matter, but that was a perfect opportunity. I should have done it. If I'd gotten the Wild Cantor out there after playing Glimpse of Nature, it would have given me a chance, but it wouldn't have mattered in the end anyway. All right. So he goes with, I think he plays, there's a card he plays that lets him name a card type. Yeah, so here's Heritage Druid, and he's going to, oh, I forgot the name of that green card that lets you search for a creature. I'll let you see it in a second. I'm having to skip through all of this. Man, I'm like, yeah, Green Sun Zenith. So he goes and gets, of all things, this guy. So he names Sorcery, not knowing that Rite of Harmony is still in my hand. Again, this should have been a bigger deal. It could have been. Anyway, I should have tried that earlier. I should have tried that last turn to go ahead and storm down. But he's turned off Glimpse of Nature. And passes turn. I've got a land grant. I go ahead and, what did I play here? Oh, I exile the Spirit Guide, which doesn't count as one of your spells. Interestingly enough. Okay? Exile Spirit Guide. Play Rite of Harmony, because he is named Sorcery. So play Rite of Harmony. And I start working on storming down. And try to reach a Bushwhacker. It doesn't happen. Okay, I sacrifice the, Elvish Spirit Guide and put Wild Cantor out. Get some more kobolds. At this point, if you hit a Bushwhacker, you can get a swing in, but it's just for that one turn that it's going to matter. You know, I mean, it was thin. It was thin, winning from there. But hit a Spirit Guide, so I pass turn. Now, the important thing to remember if you're playing against this thing is if you got Scapegoat, you can play that on his turn. I was trying to work everything to the best of my advantage. I'm just going to hit play here. He goes, plays an elf. Swings in the air. I could block with an Ornithopter, but I decided not to because I can put them all back in my hand with Scapegoat. Right. So that was, it was a last ditch effort to hope to try and draw a Rite of Flame. I could have left all those guys out there to block with, but it's very hard to play against these two once these two are out. So it's an elf deck with some other weird things going on. When we go to side here, I don't side in anything. I just went with the same, with the stock build. I didn't side in anything. And I think we got a good opening hand and just went off here, if I remember right. Okay, so we got 2 mana sources here, but a Rite of Harmony. And I don't like the idea of giving him a turn, so I want to try my best to get a good opening hand. Mulligan, and this is gorgeous, right? 2 mana sources, a glimpse, a way to get the glimpse back. So you're going to be double glimpsing on your third creature. So of course you keep this, right? Get rid of a Cheerio. He's mulliganing down to 4 cards. He's probably mulliganing down to that enchantment. Alright, get my Savannah. Exile the Spirit Guide. Cast Glimpse. Noxious Survival to glimpse back. Play Cheerio to draw the glimpse. And we have 1 double draw off of this Walker here. So this is as close to as thin as it gets right here. I think the thinnest it gets is when you're down to, you're doing 1 draw per creature and you've got a white source. You've got a Lotus Petal or Savannah out there, and you're hoping that 1 creature lands you on a Scapegoat. But anyway, so let's see how it played out. You get 2 draws here, 2 Cheerios. At that point, I'm breathing a little better, a little bit of a sigh of relief. Okay, and Lotus Petal. Now you realize, okay, you've got 4 draws here, and based on the Cheerios, those hit you. You think at this point you should feel pretty optimistic you can hit a Scapegoat and hopefully get there, or a Noxious Survival. Okay, now that was not the best 2 draws to see that turn. Okay, Walker and a Taiga. Again, we're down to still just drawing off of 1 creature. Kobolds and Ornithopter, breathing a little better. Kobolds and Noxious Survival. So now, you got to decide if you want to go ahead. You know, this is kind of up to play style. You can go ahead and Noxious Survival the glimpse, knowing that 1 of your draws off of a Kobold is going to be dead, and get to where you're triple drawing. It's up to you. I would decided to go ahead and go with the 2 Cheerios and drew a glimpse anyway. So I went ahead and did a triple glimpse, and from there, it's you know what happens from there. You don't triple glimpse with a couple Cheerios, you should have won the game. So I'll just let that one play out. Against elves, you should be able to hold your own. That enchantment is not something I normally see against elves, but with Legacy, the more and more Storm decks are out there, the more that kind of stuff you're going to see. So I'm going to show you again, at the end of all these matches, the card that I think is going to be what we bring in. All right. So let's go to match 3. This guy, I think, got a little upset. Didn't like the way this game 2 was going because I hadn't quite won it yet. But I'll show you how this went here. So opening hand, this is a hard keep. Hard to keep, not a hard line. Definitely keep. I'm mulliganing that kind of hand away. So here we go. This is gorgeous. Land Grant, Spirit Guide, and Lotus Petal. 2 glimpses. You should be fine here. Okay. All right. So we go ahead and Lotus Petal, Elvish Spirit Guide, Double Glimpse, and be off to the races here. I don't think there was anything specific to talk about here on game one, but I'm going to go through it one at a time just to make sure. Canter, yeah. It should be pretty standard. Rite of Harmony, Memnite. Okay. So at this point, you know, there's a few things you can do. Yeah, I went ahead and did the play the Rite of Harmony so I could be on a triple draw. Oh no, I didn't. Why did I? Okay, I cracked one to play the Wild Canter. Okay, never mind. So this was a few days ago, so I forgot. There, now I'm on triple draw. Okay, I'm just gonna let it play out there. So I don't know who I'm playing against. So, you know, at this point, like, I'm, you know, game two, I'm going to be blind, so I'm not going to sideboard much. And that's sort of a common theme that you see throughout all this, is that you're not going to sideboard much. So game one on matches 1, 2, and 3 were all first turn wins. Turn 1 wins. And game 3 on matches 1 and 2 were also turn 1 wins. So at this point, we're at a 4-2, or no, 5-2 now. 5-2 ratio on turn 1 wins. Okay. All right, now game 2 gets a little tricky here. So I'm definitely going to do step by step what's going on here. And this is definitely a keep. You know, we find out that he's doing. I'll show you in a second. You see polluted delta. He's still, you know, this is in a lot of decks, but you hate seeing that black because they're probably going to go with, an underground sea. You realize, okay, this is probably, you know, going to be some discard stuff I'm playing against. All right, and I think I just passed the turn here. Yeah. Okay. I'm not for sure. If anybody knows, comment and let me know. I'm not for sure what game he's trying to play here. I'm not familiar with these cookbook decks. I played decks very similar to this in Modern before, but not in Legacy. And there's a Wasteland, of course. Wasteland can be a pretty serious enemy for us. Okay. Oh, that's what I missed. Okay. So, their first turn, at the end of their first turn, I could have Noxus Revival back to Lotus Petal. But, to me, I didn't have enough Cheerios to really take that risk yet. Because I knew that I could be running into more discard. So, I went ahead and waited, got one more Cheerio. Now I Noxus back to Lotus Petal. Comes back to me, I draw the Lotus Petal. Crack it, and play Glimpse of Nature. Now, 3 Cheerios here, and 1 Glimpse played. No mana source yet, but do have a Glimpse. So literally any mana source I hit, I'm going to be double glimpsing off of this. Oops. Okay. Okay, so here's a land grant. Go and get the Savannah, play the Savannah, play the Glimpse, and Kobold's going to double draw. Okay. Now, this is where you start thinking about this Rite of Harmony, and what kind of mana sources you might hit to play that Rite of Harmony. 2 Spirit Guides is not what you want to see. Okay. And this is where you start getting nervous. Now you got a Noxus Revival. All right. So you got to think here. If you play the Noxious Revival to get the Lotus Petal back, then yeah, you can play the Lotus Petal. You can exile Spirit Guide and play Rite of Harmony, but you've got no way to keep the draw engine going, so you can't play it yet. Also, you got to keep an eye on your storm count, because this is, if this is one spell, this is two spells, and the third spell is going to be Grape Shot. You got to start thinking about, how close you're going to be to the storm here. I've been in situations before where, being at this point, I really had to sit and, add up spells and say, okay, would I just want to go, because you're going to play one spell, then you're going to play this spell to draw the Lotus Petal, and then you're going to play the Lotus Petal. So that's 3 spells. You're at storm count 13. Then you play the Grape Shot. You're at storm count 14. So you're not quite there yet. So it gets close here. Get 2 draws here. All right, now this is where it matters. So you're on 2 draws. You got 1 Memnite here. Go ahead and play the Noxious Revival now. Okay. Because before, like I was saying, you're going to get to draw Lotus Petal, but you had no guarantee. Like if we back this up and play the Noxious Revival, put the Lotus Petal on top, then the Kobolds is going to draw us Lotus Petal and one other thing. And there's no guarantee. It's a 50-50 chance, right? That's the way our deck runs, 30 creatures. 50-50 chance that next card's going to be a dud. So you wait until you know you're going to have that second draw. So we've had 1 draw off the Kobolds, which is the Midnight. We're going to play the Noxious Revival now to get the Lotus Petal. All right. Now our second draw is going to get us the Lotus Petal, and we go for the Rite of Harmony. Like that. Exile Spirit Guide, Lotus Petal, Rite of Harmony. Now we got 3 draws off the Midnight. And that was where he conceded. As soon as he saw the Rite of Harmony drop, he knew we had 3 draws. I don't know. I didn't do the, and I can't do it now, to see what my next cards were. That was definitely not a guaranteed win at that point. But they went ahead and decided they'd had enough. So that was match 3. Now match 4, there's not much to see here. Because the mulligans killed me here. Opening hand. Oh, wait. Sorry. There wasn't any mulligans in the first game here. I'll show you what happened. Okay, you see this? Chancellor of Annex entered the revealed card zone. Now you know that your first spell, you're going to have to pay 1 extra for. So you realize this is not a turn 1 thing. You're not going to be able to do that here. What you can do is play the land grant and pay the 1 for the land grant with that Savannah and pull another Savannah. So at this point, I'm still thinking I can go the next turn, but I hate seeing the Chancellor. You really don't know what you're going to see next. Probably is discard. Pay 1 for the Chancellor. All right. You go and get your Savannah. Goes back to them. Scrub land. Thoughtseize, and there goes our Rite of Harmony. So we're into a waiting game now. I'm just going to hit play because not much happens here. It goes like 2 turns, and then he storms away. There's Dark Ritual and Tomb. Or not storms away, sorry. This is a reanimate deck. Once Grizzlebrand hits the table, all kinds of funky nonsense starts happening. And then they've got a main board, Chancellor of Annex, Unmasked. You realize they're just going to tear the deck apart, and you're going to lose. There's nothing to wait for. You're done. Okay. Game 2. This is where the mulligans killed me. I don't think there was any way to win that game 1. If you watch this and you think I had a way to win game 1, definitely let me know, because I didn't know. Okay, so I mulligan once, still nothing. Mulligan again. Look at this. How crazy is that? Nothing, right? So decide to go ahead and keep it, and I'm just going to hit play. Chancellor of Annex again enters the revealed card zone. And I didn't see that. I played land grant and played right into it, just lost my land grant, which wouldn't have mattered in the end. I mean, this game was doomed here. Grief, he starts making me discard stuff. Down to 2 Cheerios. This was a tough match. I don't know. And then brings Chancellor of Annex main deck. You know, I could have thrown these guys out and blocked a few turns, but you're not going to win now. So, whenever an opponent casts a spell, this isn't non-creature, it isn't sorcery instant, it's just a spell. You can't play Cheerios against something like that on the table, and it's out of it's out of range of gut shot and things like that we've got in the sideboard. So match 4 was a disaster. that was awful. Okay, so let's do game 1 here. Now I'm playing a mono red. So I mulligan once, don't see it. Alright, mulligan twice, and I see it. Okay, so I'm down to 5 cards. And decide not to go for it. Wait and see what I'm playing against. Here's Ragavan. I'm not super concerned about Ragavan, but you'll see why I should have been. So, all right. This is when I should have gone for it. But I wasn't super concerned. Playing that, if you start seeing mountains fall and things like that across the table, I was wrong. I just didn't feel rushed to do this. And you'll see why it was just an awful mistake. I should have gone for it this turn, because he's going to swing with Ragavan and show me what that first draw would have been. And you'll see why I'm so mad. All right. All right. So that's what Ragavan got. That means that would have been my first draw, which means I would have Spirit Guided, Glimpse, Phyrexian Walker, drew the Noxus Revival to Glimpse, played the Ornithopter, drew the Glimpse, cast it, and been on double draw with the Cobalt. It would have been a good setup. But I didn't pull the trigger on it because I didn't feel like I was in a rush. And I still, at this point, don't feel like I'm in a super high rush, but that was upsetting to see that. Now, right now, we realize just how screwed we are. Okay, they once this guy's out, if you don't have a way main deck to deal with it, it's you scoop. There's hardly anything you can do. If you're playing against burn, you want to bring in things like extra grape shots if you have them in the side. Oops, I don't know why I clicked that. Anyway, I think I didn't stay in this one much longer because I didn't have anything main deck to even think about. Yeah, so I conceded here, probably an early concede, but just, think about this. So you're going to exile Spirit Guide, play the Glimpse, you're going to lose 2 life. Just playing these 3, you're going to lose another 6, you're going to be down to 10. And you're going to kill yourself just trying to get there in the storm. So your only hope would have been drawing into a grape shot. And then hope to live long enough after that. So this was a pretty brutal shutout here. All right, game 2, we show them what we're made of. This is a keep, right? We don't have 2 Cheerios here. We got a Wild Cantor, but we got 2 mana sources. We got a Scapegoat, which means a lot. Nox Survival and a Glimpse. So while there's not a real clear path here, there's not a real clear path because you play both Lotus Petals out. You can crack a petal and play Glimpse, and then play Kobolds, draw off of it, and try to get far enough. Noxious Revival doesn't make any sense at that point, because what would happen is, if I can explain this without putting all these on the board. So you play the Lotus Petal, then you play the Glimpse. Then, if you wanted to, you could play Noxious Revival, put Glimpse back on top, draw it with the Kobolds, and then you could use your other petal to play Glimpse, but then you've got nothing to play Wild Cantor with. Okay? So, imagine this slightly rearranged. Let's go ahead and look at it this way. Let's put this over here. Play that, use the petal to play Wild Cantor. Okay? You can use these to try to get, and this may have been the better risk, but again, if I was playing a deck that was using discard or control, I would have taken that risk and thought, okay, I'm going to try to get to enough creatures between Wild Cantor and Crimson Kobolds so that I can sack Cantor and play Scapegoat and turn this whole thing around. So, main, Lotus Petal, and pass. Because at this, I don't feel real threatened by the red deck. Okay? Plays a mountain, passes turn. And draw Lotus Petal. Not the best thing, but now I can see the route to double glimpsing and being able to play Wild Cantor. So there's a few different, if you see this setup, there's a few different play routes you could take. A few different patterns you could take at this point. I'll go with the Glimpse, and then I Noxious Revival back the Glimpse. Okay, Kobolds and draw the Glimpse, and then Lotus Petal, cast the Glimpse, Lotus Petal, Wild Cantor. So I'm taking the gamble now, because I know if he hits 2 mana here, and he plays an Eidolon, or red's got some funky stuff, and you'll see definitely in game 3. All right, Elvish Spirit Guide, oops, Ornithopter, Grape Shot, Shield Sphere, Glimpse of Nature. Let's see, Kobolds. Go ahead and play the Land Grant and pull that Savannah out of there. Okay, and at this point, you realize you may likely end up playing Scapegoat if you hit some dead cards, but you pretty much got the win here. I'm just going to hit play. Excuse me. So, in game 2, we show them what it looks like, and they realize what time it is. And at this point is where I think they bring in our new enemy in Legacy. And I'll show you, they play it opening turn in game 3, and it's a brutal thing to see. Okay. Game 3. So you see our win there. So we went up to, what are we at then? 7-2. Yeah, we're at 7-2 at that point, I think. Oh no, I'm not including the games in between there. So 7-4. 7-4 on turn 1 wins. I don't know if I've done that math right or not. All right. So this is almost good. It's almost very good. It just doesn't have the mana source. So I'm looking that away. Glimpse of Nature, Land Grant, Noxious Revival. This is a great setup. This is a turn 1, go for it, if I've ever seen one. And I think I'll get rid of the Grape Shot, yeah. Now, turn 1, he plays a Mountain. Okay. He exiles a Simian Spirit Guide and plays Rolling Vortex, our new enemy. whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was used to cast that spell, Rolling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. We can cast a total of 4 Cheerios and no Lotus Petals. No land grants. This is a backbreaker. I mean, we got to have a way to deal with this because this thing's popping up a lot in modern burn decks, and now I'm seeing it in Legacy. So the common thread here between the one we saw earlier and this one is they're both an enchantment. So I think I scooped after that one. It comes back to me, thought about it for a second, and then I decided it wasn't worth even thinking about it because I realized, land grant was even going to cost me, and I conceded. So got our money back. We went 3-2. This was the turn 1 win ratio was definitely over 50%. Like I said, match 4, I'm not too hard on myself about. I don't think anybody could have won that game. That was just going to be a hard win for anybody. This one could have gone a little differently if he hadn't had this in Simeon Spirit Guide. I mean, that was brutal. So I'll do this. I'm going to show you who I think this means we bring back here. So let's go collection. Okay. So let me do this right quick since I'm here. Let's pull this up. All right. So this is how I like to set it up here. Of course, if you've watched any of my other videos, this is what I like to do to get a good view of the current build. I put all my mana sources. Oops. Put all my mana sources over here. Put all my glimpse effects together. Put them over here. And it makes everything look sort of much simpler. Okay. So this is, for me, I've been working on Cheerios for a long time, and in my opinion, this is as optimal as it gets. It just doesn't get much more optimal than this. I've really, really tried to get things at peak performance, and I don't think it gets much better. Disagree if you want, but I think main deck, this is as good as it gets right now. Of course, the Xanted Swarms, I've got an extra forest. That's sort of a flex spot, as is the Endless ones. I go for the Endless ones rather than things like we have a new Cheerio out there. The new, it's a legendary Cheerio. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, could put a few different things here. I like Endless one because I can get him back to Noxus Revival. If you're on a really touchy area, like let's say you're on a double draw and you have no Cheerios in hand, and your first draw is not a Cheerio, then at that point, if you got Endless one in the yard, you Noxus Revival back to Endless one so you can get another couple draws off of it when you play it. I like having him in there for decks that you go full board combo. You don't think you're going to run into any kind of interaction to worry about. And then of course the gut shots are for Thalia, which I didn't run into at all in that league. And Ingot Chewers are for Chalice, which again seems oddly absent from the current Legacy meta. So this is, if you've played Cheerios much, you know that this is our backup enchantment destruction. Okay, so let's do display show preview panel. Can I click it? Yeah. Okay. Where's my preview panel? Here it is. Okay. All right. This is our enchantment destruction. Okay. And it works great when you need it. We just haven't needed it forever. It has a similar, it's evoked just like Ingot Chewer. So if you want to know why we're not running some other kind of white enchantment destruction, it's because, like Ingot Chewer, this guy can be, if you're in mid-storm, you've got some mana sources out there, this guy is a draw trigger. He's a creature. When he enters the battlefield and he's cast, even though you sacrifice him, he'll give you draws off of Glimpse of Nature and Rite of Harmony. So this is probably going to come into my sideboard in both Paper and Magic Online, because I really feel like we're going to be running into these enchantments more and more, and Rolling Vortex especially, I think, is going to be one we're running into. So this would be a 4 of in the sideboard that may, for me, replace Ingot Chewer. So let me know if what you guys decide to do about these new enemies that we're running into, but that's where I'm at. So let me know what you think.